All right, it's high time to get started. 2 o'clock. See.
All right.
There you are. How are you?
Doing great, man. Better than I deserve. That is for sure.
Better than you deserve. That's awesome. All right, welcome. We're going to get started on another Espresso Agent Mastery session. These things are so amazing, and we just get so lucky that the good folks of Espresso Agent are bringing you incredible speakers, influencers like Coach James today. And it's just such a good series, and I'm so glad you guys are participating. A couple housekeeping items, and I'm sure I'll answer this again because it's a question that's always asked a couple times, and that is, can I watch this back? Will I be able to see this again? And yes, of course, you will be able to go to the Espresso Agent YouTube page and watch this and many others play back anytime you want at your leisure. So if you see something, a point that you like to kind of hit back over, take note of the kind of time that we're in here, and you can go back and play that. Of course, as always, we have you on mute, and that is not because we don't want to hear from you. We do want to hear from you. In fact, it is critical that you guys participate by using the chat bars or the Q&A at the bottom. The only reason we have you on mute is so that we can keep the background noise down. As you can imagine, that can get pretty distracting for you, and we're just trying to give you the best experience. So please know that, and we're Facebook Live, so that's even cooler. All right.
Awesome. Gotta love Facebook Live.
Even better. Yeah, we started doing that, I think, last time, which was great. All right, so yes, please participate. It helps Coach James know what your questions are. Chances are, if you have a question, somebody else has the same question, so don't be shy about that, all right? So let me introduce to you Coach James today. We're very lucky. In fact, we've had you on before, once or twice, I believe.
Yeah, a couple times. I think this is number 3, man. 3's a charm.
It's number 3. And you're one of my favorites, and I always gain something from listening to you, and I know everybody is. I know you live in Rochester, New York, right?
I do. Rochester, New York. It's hey, it's a change today. It's light gray instead of dark gray, so
right. Are you a Bills fan, or what?
I'm not a Bills fan. I can't say I'm a Bills fan. In fact, I'm not a huge NFL fan. I love college football. Football is my main thing. But I'm definitely pulling for the Eagles this time around. So I'm sure that just made a few people happy, and it made a few people decide, you know what, I'm not even going to listen to this guy. I'm already done. He's not a Patriots fan. Forget it.
It's sort of like politics, religion, and the NFL. Do not speak your opinion. Right. Anyway, you've been coaching for several decades now. I'm sure you started when you were 13 years old coaching.
Yeah, I must have. I don't know how it happened, but yeah, 20 years just like that.
20 years just like that. And you were a Mike Ferry coach at one point, but now you have your own business coaching agents, really all levels, whether you're brand new in the business and you just really want to shorten your learning curve, or kind of mid-level, and you just want to have this nice balanced life, or maybe you're knocking it out of the park and growing a massive team and taking over the world.
Right.
All levels, right?
I do indeed. Yep. I've got a couple of spots in my schedule open that say Espresso Agents Welcome. So you guys are all set if you'd like to participate. So,
oh my gosh, guys, I recommend, everybody has a coach. And if you jive with Coach James, give him a call and test it out. But that's not why we're here. This is your gift to everybody here today, your time.
You got it.
We're fired up to talk about something different. We do a lot of scripts and objections and role playing, which is really, really important. In fact, you've done that with us before. But if we don't have this going right, it doesn't matter if we know what to say, right?
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. Because what we say stems from our thinking anyway.
This is true. Yeah. So you're going to give us a mindset adjustment, some reprogramming, and we're ready.
Okay, good. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I definitely appreciate the chance to kind of stand in front of the camera and talk to you guys and really talk about something that, for me is, I would say, one of my favorite topics to talk about, frankly. It's fun. It's a challenge at the same time, because there is so much that we could talk about when it comes to mindset and, how we get our thinking in line. I mean, as I was kind of joking with Monica before we went live like this, I mean, we could talk for 3 hours, and there's been many seminars, many programs where I've spent a long time talking about mindset. But, I've hoped that I've kind of boiled it down, to some essentials today, some nuggets. And, frankly, anytime I step on stage, anytime I get in front of the camera or have a chance to talk to a group, I try to show up with two objectives. Number one is I want to bring information. I want to bring ideas. I want to bring concepts. I want to bring systems, tools, something of value to the table that you can take away, right? That you can actually do something with. And then the second thing is the motivation, right? It's the encouragement to actually get out and take action, because something I say pretty much every week when I get together with my Real Training Live audience is that we've heard for decades that knowledge is power, right? We've heard that phrase, knowledge equals power. And I kind of realized a few years ago that that's not true. Knowledge does not equal power. It's the acting upon the knowledge where the power lies. So part of what I try to encourage any audience I'm speaking to do is find the one or two things. You need to commit to finding at least one or two concepts, ideas, thoughts, whatever, that you are going to actually put into action, hopefully in the next few hours. Okay, so that's really kind of my goal as we kick off today. And, like Monica mentioned, we're going to talk about mindset. And, because it is true that we become what we think about most of the time, right? That is true. So then it begs the question, and that's where the title came from, what are you thinking about? Like, what are you consciously focusing on and thinking about at this very moment, throughout the day today, in the month of January? Because our thought life will create for us so often the results that we get. Now, I'm going to say something that maybe some of you won't quite get, or you won't quite understand when I first say it. But the idea is that our minds are not our friends. Okay? Your mind is not your friend unless you train it and feed it to be. Okay? Now, think about what I just said. The reality is, in our natural state, so often, right or wrong, you guys can kind of judge this for yourself, we tend to gravitate toward fear. We sometimes gravitate toward negativity. It's so easy to get pulled in that direction. And our mind is designed to protect you. Okay? Your mind, part of the function of your mind is to protect you from harm, whether that be physical harm, emotional harm, whatever. And so because of that, it often becomes a barrier to the right kind of action that you have to take, because, it's there telling you, hey, don't do that. Don't say that. You might get yelled at. You might get laughed at. You might get, hurt in some way. They might tell you no. You might get rejected. And so there's this continual voice. Sometimes you guys may have heard it called the drunk monkey, or there's lots of names that we give that little voice, but it's the voice of protection. And so when it comes to growth, when it comes to maximizing what your potential is, your mind needs to be fed and trained to be on board with you, okay? Because see, just like our physical bodies, if you're not feeding your mind, it can get sick too, okay? Our mind can almost become sick, and it can become a detriment. I heard a story about a guy that he worked from his house, and he was just at home one morning doing his thing, and the doorbell rang. And so he went to the door and opened it up, and there was one of his neighbors standing there, and you could see that the guy had like a big metal trash can. And the guy said, "Excuse me, step aside," and he just heaved this entire can of garbage into this guy's living room, okay? And then he just walked away. And the guy was standing there like, what in the world just happened? I cannot believe this guy just did this. And he, obviously took the next several hours cleaning up the garbage and, the carpet and the furniture and all of this sort of stuff, right? Well, the reality is, so often we do the exact same thing right up here, okay? We open the door to people and we allow them to throw their trash into our heads, okay? Have you guys ever been there before? Because I know I have, right? And so we need to take ownership, in a sense, of our thinking in our minds, the same way we might take ownership of our homes or anything else that we don't want to become polluted, for lack of a better word, all right? So I guess, just as a way of kind of kicking things off, I want you to kind of picture that. I want you to realize one thing, and that is you have a choice most of the time whether you want to open that door or not, okay? You have a choice. You get to determine in a lot of ways. You're the landlord up here, right? You get to determine who rents space in your head. In fact, I can remember almost 20 years ago, one of the guys I was coaching said that to me. He said, you know what, James, I've made a decision this week that I'm choosing not to allow people to rent space in my head anymore. I'm moving forward, and I'm going to decide who I allow into my thinking. So I hope that resonates with some of you guys, and I'm sure maybe you can think of examples already. What are we at, the 24th of January? You maybe can think of examples where somehow your thinking has gotten off track. Your mindset has gotten derailed already this year. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if, Monica, if you want to just kind of interject, or if maybe somebody has a comment or a question, maybe they're commenting below.
But I can't imagine. I believe that everyone can understand and relate to what you're saying if you think about it that way. That somebody is basically planting themselves inside your brain and dumping all their stuff in there. Yeah,
they do, and like I said, they're all around us. Those people that may not think the way you think. They may be negative. They may, for years I told the joke about how real estate offices sometimes take on the characteristic of a crab trap. Okay, if you know anything about crab fishing or crabbing, one thing you know is that the traps they use don't have lids on them. Okay, because they'll go out and they'll grab the first crab and they'll throw it in the basket. And if it's left to itself, it will climb out. But as soon as you put another crab in the trap, they immediately begin to climb up and pull each other down if one of them is trying to get out. And so my joke for years has been that sometimes your real estate office can feel like that, man. As soon as you start to climb up and get a little bit of success and try to break out, you got all these naysayers pulling you back down. So,
gosh, I've never heard that before. That is classic. I love that.
It's so true, though. I mean, There's this tendency so often that people around us have when we start to succeed, when we start to even talk about success. My very first week in real estate, never forget. Now, I had moved from upstate New York down to Florida to sell real estate. I was 21 years old. I was actually at the time selling in a Century 21 office in Sun City Center, Florida, which obviously, even to live there, you had to be 55 years old. So here I am. I'm like the grandkid, as I'm out knocking on people's doors and stuff. And most of the agents in the office were older as well. Well, there was this one agent. It was a retired Air Force major or colonel or something. I don't remember now. But he was a decent guy. But my first week, my broker had me stand up at the office meeting and just announce, introduce myself and talk a little bit about why I was there, why I was in real estate. And I was sharing like, hey, man, I am here. My goal is to sell 50 houses my first year. I've got a plan. I've got this and this and this. And I kind of shared with them that I'd been studying the Mike Ferry system, as a matter of fact. And, that was great and all. But after the meeting, this guy, I remember he walks over to me and he puts his arm around me and he says, I just want to share something with you. He said, that Mike Ferry, and he filled in the blank with a not so nice word. He said, that stuff does not work around here. So you just need to know that right off the bat. And I'm thinking, hey, welcome to real estate, man. Needless to say, that didn't last too long, but
oh my gosh, isn't that true?
So funny.
I remember that when I was first in it, I thought that the market dictated my success because of the way we discussed what was going on in the market, and it's slow and I've got nothing going on, and then that was my excuse,
Mm-hmm. Yep. So true. That's so true. It's so easy to find an excuse if you really want one, isn't it?
Yes.
So, I mean, there's a couple things. I was going to kind of mention a couple thoughts, phrases, whatever you want to call them. I'm sure many of you have probably heard these before, but I remember, again, being introduced to a book by Robert Schuller. It's called Power Thoughts. And this was, the book was written back in the 80s, I believe. And the last time I checked, it wasn't so easy to find reprints of. I'm not even sure if they're reprinting it. But I'd read a copy of it, and this was probably 18 years ago. And one of the things that he was saying in that book was how we feel determines how we think determines how we act, and how we act determines our results. Mm-hmm. And he made this clear chain between the results that we get, the success that we have or don't have, and our thoughts and emotions. And it was just such a great way that he kind of laid that out. And so for a lot of you, as you're watching, as you're listening to, whether you're live with us today or you're watching this as a rebroadcast, the question is, what level of success are you working toward? What level of success have you had or not had? And have you noticed that there's a link, that there's a series of things that connect where you end up with your thought life. Okay. Another great thought is that, we sow a thought and we reap an action. If you sow an action, you end up reaping a habit. You continue to reap a habit, or sow a habit rather, you reap a character, and then you sow that character and you reap a destiny. Okay. So the question is, what is the destiny that you are working to achieve for yourself, for your family, for your business? And then you think back and ask yourself, well, where did that little series of things start from? What was the first thing I said? The first thing I said was you sow a thought, and a thought then reaps from that, you reap a result or an action. So, we have to understand that that there is this idea in our business that the results we are getting as of today, right now, are in direct relationship to the level of thinking that we have. And that's why this becomes so important. That's why this concept of having a strong mindset is so, I think, critical, really, to being able to achieve whatever level of success that you're trying to have in 2018.
I love that. Can you go through that process again? Because the sow a thought and reap an action or result, and then what were the other?
Then the next, sow an action and reap a habit. Okay, when you continue to do something on a regular basis, it becomes a habit, right? So you create habits in your life based on the actions you're taking. But again, stop right there. Where are the actions coming from? The actions are coming from right up here, right? What you're thinking about results in what you do. So then you sow these habits and you reap a character. Okay, you become characterized by the habits that define your life. Okay, so you might have a person that is an early riser every day. They're known for being up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock every single morning. Doesn't matter if it's a Saturday or Sunday. That's the character about that person, because that's their habit. Okay, and then the last part of that, Monica, was that you sow your character and you reap a destiny. Okay.
Oh, I like that.
And your destiny, or your life story, if you will, is defined by the kind of person you are, which is in part defined by the habits you live your life by, which are created through a series of actions, which all began, again, right up here. Okay.
Is it possible, do you think, for us to be so attached to what we want our character to be that we can form the habits, actions, thoughts? Like, can you go backwards in that if you're attached to the character in the middle?
In fact, I think that's part of the process we need to go through. That's part of really what we're, in a sense, going to talk about a little bit today, is that when you stop and evaluate, hey, what is my character? Am I in the habit? Do I have the character of being at the office on time? Is it part of my character? Sometimes I refer to that in my coaching calls with clients. I'll say, hey, you know what? This week is a week for you to get back into character, because you've been off track. You've been out of focus. You've not been doing the things you need to do to get the results you want. So how about we step back into character this week? And what we mean by that is you go back and look at the actions you've been taking or not taking, and figure out, hey, what do I have to change? And before your behavior changes, your thoughts have to change.
Got it. And so we sort of go to that, be who you need to be, do what you need to do so you can have what you have, right?
Yeah, in a sense, that's right. And again, we have to feed the thought life so that it will create that seed bed, if you will, for the actions to bear fruit. Because sometimes it's like your mind can be sort of likened to a field, right? Is the soil fertile? Can good things grow out of the thought life you have? Or are only negative, miserable, discouraging, are you the downer, man, everywhere you go? And is your viewpoint negative all the time because of the thought life? So
awesome. Cool. Love it.
Yeah. So I think, again, another one of these famous sayings, that if you think you can or you think you can't, there's good news. And that is, either way, you're right. That's right. You get to be right, even if you think you can't. But the point there is, it's about belief. Okay. Belief is, it's really the first requirement of success, isn't it? Because see, if you don't believe that something is even possible, what are the chances that you're ever going to choose to engage in actions that could potentially lead to that outcome? Why would you bother, right? It's like, well, why, I don't believe cold calling works. Therefore, I'm not going to pick up the phone. Well, hello, why are thousands of agents making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year or more from cold calling? Because it does work. It's just, of course, it only works if you do. So, I mean, there's a whole thought process there. And I know I've said this to you guys before. I think I talked about this, maybe not the last time. Yeah, I think it was last time when we talked about lead follow-up, that there's this mindset component to every aspect of our business. Okay. And typically that's where the changing needs to happen, which then creates the change in your behavior. So I think I gave you the example of how for a lot of agents, their follow-up is not really effective. Their follow-up calls aren't being made. And when I ask them, hey, why aren't you following up on your leads? They will say something like, well, I don't want to pester the people. I'm afraid I'm bothering them. I'm afraid I'm becoming a nuisance. I don't want to be the typical salesperson. And so there again, there's a whole series of thoughts, right?
Yeah, right.
Which is creating in this case, lack of action that's required. So if we can fix the thought and get you thinking, hey, I'm not bothering people. I'm trying to help people. I'm coming from a place of trying to fulfill a need that they've already told me they have. My job is to find a way to show them I can fill that need. So therefore, I got to call them, right? I got to reach out. I have to take action and do something to try to create that outcome.
Got it. Oh.
Yeah. So, the reality is too, when we talk about this phrase mindset, to me, there's several components of mindset. There's different types, I guess, of mindset. So, for example, there's the sort of hopeful, optimistic mindset, or there's that element, right, of our mindset where we're just believing the glass is half full. We're choosing to believe the better outcome. We're choosing to believe what is possible as opposed to what's not possible. I remember hearing a story. Now, this probably goes back at least 15 years. There was a book by Rick Warren. He's a pastor at the Saddleback Church, and he wrote a book called The Purpose-Driven Life, which a lot of people read and loved, and it gained success pretty quickly. But I remember listening to an interview that had been done with him maybe 6 months or so after the book was released. And the interviewer was talking with him and saying, oh man, Rick, we know that, recently your wife has been diagnosed with cancer and she's undergoing treatments for that. And he was saying, this must have been a real roller coaster ride for you this year with the book being released and, you got this going on over here. He was saying, how do you deal with that every day? How do you live on the roller coaster every day? And I remember Rick saying, the reality is I don't view it as a roller coaster where it's just these ups and downs. He said, I view my life as a set of railroad tracks. He said, on the one hand, and see, I get to get up every day and choose which track I'm going to focus on. Because at any given point in all of our lives, there is a track running through our life that has a lot of great things going on, a lot of wins, a lot of incredible experiences and positive things. But he said at the same time, in almost everybody's life, there is a track running through it that's got negativity. It's got things that make you sad. It's got things that are frustrating you, things that are not working out the way you wanted them to. And you need to get up every single day and make the decision, and that's the key word, which track are you going to walk on and focus on that day? Okay. And I just thought, wow, that's such a great way to put, his particular experience into perspective, right?
I love that. And it also allows us, for those of us who at any given time in our life, we can look at the agent next to us or whatever and say, wow, I really wish I had their business, or really wish I had whatever they had going on. The grass is always green or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But if you believe that about everybody has these two tracks.
Yeah, that's right.
At all times. And
that's right.
Which one you're going to ride on. Yeah.
Yep.
I love that.
Yep. Yeah, it's been said that if you and 5 other people sat around a table and everybody put their problems in the middle and showed them to everybody, you'd grab yours back as fast as you could, man. You wouldn't want any part of what everybody else is dealing with, right?
Exactly. That's so cool.
But see, again, the whole key here is that there's an element of our mindset that is involving, in fact, most of it is involving choice. Choosing, am I going to believe that something is possible? Am I going to believe a positive outcome for myself, that it's could happen? And this isn't the name it and claim it mentality. This isn't just the sit back and shout it out to the universe and then just wait for it to fall in your lap. This is the belief, which then is the fuel that gets you into motion. You need to go to work. You need to work hard. You need to take action. You need to you're going to fight for all the success you get, but you're fighting because you believe there's a positive outcome waiting for you. Okay, so that's one element. The other element that kind of ties into that is what I call the perseverance mindset. Okay, and that is that you are committed to moving forward regardless of what seems to be happening at the moment. Okay, it's so you've decided, you've believed, you have a hopeful belief in the future, you've gotten into action. But life happens, right? I mean, there's going to be adversity, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be things that are going to come against you. You have to be determined that you're going to keep going. Okay, and that's the element of perseverance, not just giving up, throwing in the towel when things start to get a little bit difficult or they don't meet your expectations. Okay, and then the final element is just kind of what I call the inspired mindset. Those are those little quick bursts that you can get of enthusiasm and of energy. You just get excited about something in the moment, and it lifts your spirits. It puts you back into the right frame of mind. There's various aspects, I guess, is my point.
Yeah, totally, completely. On your, I think, website or your Facebook page or something, you say how to sort of zero out at the end of the day and start fresh the next day. Is not the right language, but can you help us talk through maybe some tricks that you do or how you coach that? Because sometimes we carry one day to the next, and this is all part of this mindset, I would imagine.
It is very much so, very much so. And again, it's kind of like the story there with Rick Warren is that you have to decide what am I bringing into the day. In other words, every day has a new set of challenges. Every day has a new set of opportunities. And they are not necessarily, they don't have to be connected to or reliant upon what happened the day before, for example. Okay. It's been said that the past does not dictate the future. And so starting every day at zero means that in spite of the fact that you may have had a terrible day yesterday, okay, you might have lost a couple listings, you might have had a couple deals fall apart, you might have gotten yelled at, you might have had a flat tire, you might have had all these things. That does not necessarily mean that today is going to have to be a repeat of that. That you can let go of that, you can relegate that to the past, and you can say, hey, you know what? I'm starting over fresh today. Now let's be real clear, okay? All these things we're talking about here today are so much easier to be spoken to you from behind a camera than they are to be lived out, okay?
Yeah.
But the reality is there are people all around you living out their lives in a very positive way, while at the same time experiencing real negativity, real difficult things. So it proves it can be done. I guess that's my point. It's not easy. It's not supposed to be easy. But this is part of that developing of the thought process that, I believe that I can have the kind of outcome. I believe I can hit my goals this year. I believe I can list X number of properties this month. But you don't stop there, okay? You don't stop because it's the belief plus action that equals faith. That's where, your faith is in the fact that you're going to do the right things. You are taking the right steps. But if your belief isn't there, you've cut the legs out. You're not going to be taking any steps. You're not going to be taking action. So yeah, all these things are very much interwoven. That's why I said at the beginning, man, it's such a fun topic to talk about, but it's very challenging at the same time because so many layers to it. There's so many elements that go into this idea of having the positive mindset.
Do you have something you do when you find yourself, as we all do at some point, with the drunk monkey on our shoulder or whatever you want to call it?
Yep. Now, I did not email you a set of my notes, did I? Because you're like literally, it's so great. I mean, which hopefully tells me something, and that is that there's a little bit of a linear process to what I'm saying here today. Hopefully this is kind of lining
up. So funny.
Because it is so true. See, the reality is, guys, we're in one of two states of mind at any given time, okay? One of two, and we can characterize them with lots of different names, but for the sake of today's talk, I'm just going to call them the power state and the reactive state. Okay, so we're in one of those two places, or very close to the middle at any given time. Okay, so let me give you, I guess, a definition, or maybe give you some words that might define being in the power state. Okay, so when you're feeling optimistic, you're in the power state. When you're feeling joyful and excited, you're in the power state. When you're feeling determined, when you're feeling motivated, when you're feeling any of these types of things, that means your mind is in the right place. You're in this power state. You're ready to go. Okay, your engine's on. You got plenty of fuel. You're just ready to take off. Okay. Contrast that with the reactive state, or the negative state, if you want to call it that. Okay, that's where we feel paralyzed. Okay, we feel depressed, we feel discouraged, we feel defeated, worried, anxious. Any of these thoughts are characteristic of a person who is in the reactive or negative state. Okay. So what are the chances that you are going to go out and list a lot of property today and have some incredible conversations if you're in the negative state, if you're feeling paralyzed and reactive and, discouraged and frustrated and angry and all these things? Now, do we ever feel that way? Yes or no? Be honest.
Of course.
Of course, we all do. Like I said, the emotional state that we're in is a part of our reaction to our environment. It is normal. It is human. Okay. In fact, you have a mental illness of some kind if you don't have those emotions, okay, quite frankly. Right. But see, it's, again, remember the sequence. How we feel determines how we think, or can have an impact on how we think, which then affects our action, which then affects our results. So see, the thinking, the processing of what's happening around us is where we make decisions of, am I going to pull the curtain shut? Am I going to put on Dr. Phil and get a bucket of ice cream, and that's where I'm spending my day? Is that what I'm going to do based on what's happening to me? Or am I going to, just dig deep, and I'm going to recommit, and I'm going to refocus. I'm going to believe that there's a possible positive outcome, and I'm going to get out the house and I'm going to go to work. See, that's where the thinking, that's the response and the processing of all these emotions that we all feel. We all get angry. We all get frustrated, discouraged, depressed, whatever. But see, there is a concept that I don't know if I've coined this. I don't think I have, but I call it mental strength. Okay. It's a characteristic that we need to develop. Okay. Mental strength, as I've defined it, is the ability to recover from adversity so that you are not off track for more than 24 hours. Okay. That's just a simple definition, right? It's the ability, so it's a skill, to recover from adversity, because life has adversity, so that you're not off track. Okay. Now there's different levels of mental strength. So let's take, for example, a professional athlete. All right. Let's take, since we're in the Super Bowl season, let's take a professional NFL quarterback. Okay. They're out playing their game. They're doing their thing, and they throw an interception. Okay. How long do they have? 24 hours to recover from that? No. Do they have an hour to recover from that? No, they might have 10 minutes, depending on what happens next. They have a very short window of time that they need to recover from and put that out of their head, because guess what? If they don't ever develop that ability, what do you think the chances are they're even going to ever make it to be an NFL quarterback?
Right, that's true.
Not going to happen, okay? Right. That's one of those characteristics, by the way, guys, of top performers. I don't care whether you're talking about quarterbacks, musicians, comedians, actors and actresses, high level, anything. Okay. Part of the requirement to rise to that level is you develop a high sensitivity to mental strength. Okay. Because you got to recover quickly. In fact, it's funny because a lot of times the reporters, as they love to do, right, they'll catch that quarterback at halftime and they'll put the mic right in their face and they'll say, so what did you think about that interception you threw? And I love it because so many times I've seen those types of situations where the quarterback says, what interception?
Like they put it out of their mind.
Yeah, what are you talking about? It doesn't even matter anymore. So here's the deal, guys. Has there been a time where you've gotten on the phones, you've gotten into action, and then something happened? You had 3 or 4 people in a row that yelled at you. Okay. You had a lead that you followed up on that you were certain you were getting a listing, and they told you they listed with somebody else. You had a deal that was going to close in 2 days and it was going to pay you a phenomenal paycheck, and you were going to get to pay off your debt, and the deal falls apart. Has anything like that ever happened to any of you? Okay. Sure. Answer is absolutely yes. What was your response? How long did it take you to recover? Was it 5 minutes? Was it 5 hours? Was it 5 days? To get back to the frame of mind where you were in the power state and you could take the right action. Okay. So when we fall into that place, and this goes back to your question, Monica, when that happens, because it will happen, there is a process, there's a routine, there's some steps that I would certainly encourage you to take when that happens, okay? It's sort of the state-changing routine, okay? So step one is you need to recognize and be aware of the state you're in, okay? So like most recovery programs, the first step is admission, right? Okay, the first step is being willing to say, you know what, my mindset stinks right now. I am bitter, I am angry at this situation, I'm frustrated by it, I'm discouraged, you know, I'm just not a happy camper right now, man. Okay, and step two is you acknowledge the price you're going to pay if you stay there. Okay, that's step two, because so often what do we love to do? We love to wallow. We love to tell people about it. We love to use it as an excuse to get on Facebook and gripe and put all this nasty stuff up and, you know, just vent. Okay, but the reality is, at some point, if you're going to move forward, you've got to remind yourself there is a price that you will pay if you stay in that place. Okay? Because if that attitude, that mindset, that negative place keeps you from picking up the phone again, it keeps you from going out and knocking on doors again, it keeps you from following up on the leads you know you need to follow up on, promise you, you will have a price to pay for that. Okay? So that's step two. And then step three is you need to put in place a state changer. Okay? Picture, for example, let's picture a bowling ball being on a shelf. If that bowling ball falls off and falls to the floor, what is required to get that ball back up onto the shelf?
Muscles.
Muscles. Okay. A more general term would be energy, right?
Right.
Yeah, muscles, right?
Yeah.
But you need energy. There needs to be an input of energy, right, to get that ball lifted back up and put on the shelf. So what we need, guys, is we need a source of energy. We need an input of something from outside of us, okay? And there are basically four major state changers, if that's what you want to call them, that are relevant, I guess you could say, to anybody, okay? These are across the board. In terms of being a human being, there's four basic things that will change your state, okay? So these aren't in necessarily any particular order, but exercise is one of them. Okay, exercise is a state changer. It's an energy source. Music is another one. It's an incredible state changer. Humor is the third one, and then prayer is the fourth. Okay, these are four universal state changers that you can use to. That's the energy to get yourself above the line again, right? When you recognize and you don't want to stay below the line. All right. So here's what I will often have my clients set up. Because again, it's not about trying to design a life or design a business that is free from adversity. That's not the goal here, okay? Because it's not possible.
Right.
Okay. Adversity is going to happen. It's going to strike. So you need to be prepared for when that happens. So get a playlist, okay? Figure out what the top 5 songs are for you that just instantly put you in an excited, energetic, pumped up state of mind. Okay? So Monica, for you, it's probably Metallica, right? You know, you get out the Metallica album and, you know, you crank it up, man. I don't care what it is. It could be, you know, the 70s disco music. It might be jazz. It doesn't matter. For you to pick your top 5 songs, have a playlist immediately accessible the next time you know that you're in this state of mind. Humor, all right? Get on YouTube. Find, you know, a whole series of videos from comedians or television shows that just get you laughing, okay? You're not going to stay in the negative state if you're laughing.
Right.
And the same thing, exercise, you know, that's the whole purpose of the punching bag or those little stress balls. Okay, it's a state changer, and of course, prayer, commonly known for me, that's a big one. But you need to be prepared, right? And you need to have this plan of action for what's going to be your response the next time you find yourself below the line. Okay. Would
you put meditation in with prayer? Is that a state changer?
Yeah, I would think that's probably, because it's basically it's you know, it's a calming state. It's reaching out, if you will. You know, to find inspiration, to find hope, to find whatever in that moment. So yeah, I guess we could lump that right in there.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So one aha I was having as you were talking about sort of the mental strength that you have to have is, it strikes me that the awareness is that our thought about this and our negative thought about the moment is not reality. And it's really important for us to discern that that is separate from what's real.
Yeah.
Right? In a way, is that?
Yeah. Well, yes. I would say there's reality to both. Okay. There's a reality to the cause, and there's a reality to what the effect is going to be. That's where you get to, in a sense, have a bit of choice. Okay. You don't have to punch the person in the face that slammed the door on you when you were knocking on the door. That could be, your response, but you can create a different reality to that, the cause, if you choose to. You could laugh. You could hit your playlist on your device and start playing the music in your head as you're walking to the next door. So it's not that the things that happen to us aren't real. It's that the way we respond to that can go one of two ways. And it's very easy to go one direction because that's our tendency. That's our bent almost as human beings. Mm-hmm. But we need to take ownership of the fact that we have a choice and we can create a different reality.
Like it. Okay, good.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So again, we take all this stuff that we've talked about, right? And, we can say, yeah, man, I get it. I understand that, this stuff's going to happen and I'm going to get upset or I'm going to be thinking the wrong way. But, what do I do? What do I do with this? How do I maybe prevent it from happening so often? Because, if a lot of you are like a lot of other people that I work with, and even myself sometimes, you find that you're maybe in this negative state a little bit more often than you'd like to be. Mm-hmm. You find that it's maybe a little bit more difficult to stay positive than you wish you were. You'd like to be positive more often. Mm-hmm. Well, I said at the beginning that your mental state is in a lot of ways, it's like our physical state. Okay. If you want to have a strong physical state, you need to work at it. You need to, push yourself physically, and you need to eat right. Right? You got to put the right fuel in. Mm-hmm. Same thing with your mindset. Same thing with your mental state, is that you have to make a decision that you're going to work on it on a regular basis. You're going to exercise, if you will, your mind. You're going to challenge yourself to think positively. And you also need to feed it with the right stuff. So I would prescribe, like I try to set it up with all my clients, that you have a regular mindset section every day in your schedule. Mm-hmm. Okay, where you spend a few minutes reading a book. Okay. In fact, you don't have to do the same thing every day. The problem a lot of times is we get into a routine, it becomes boring. It's like, man, I don't want to do that again today. So have several different things that you do. One day you're reading a great book or listening to a great book. The next day you're on YouTube watching a Les Brown or a Tony Robbins or a Coach James video, to kind of motivate you. The next day you're writing down your goals and you're putting them in front of you again, and you're visualizing. And a lot of times I'll have agents say to me, what is this visualizing stuff? What do you guys always talking about visualizing your goals? Well, you know what it is, man? If you think back to when you were 4, 5, 6 years old, maybe, and you would daydream, right? You would daydream about flying out the window and becoming a bird and flying through the sky, or you daydream about being an astronaut, or, whatever. You know what? Visualizing is just adult daydreaming. That's all it is. Okay, it's allowing yourself the luxury of imagining what is possible when you reap the benefits of your hard work. Mm-hmm. So you imagine yourself, you put yourself in that place in Europe where you want to go with your family on vacation for a month later this year. You visualize imagining what it's feeling like as you pay off your mortgage, as you buy that next rental property, as you contribute that amount that you want to donate to that cause that's so important to you. Mm-hmm. You daydream. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you got to feed your mind. You got to have time every day, guys, where you are committing to exercising in a positive way the thought process. Mm-hmm. So many things you can do. And quite honestly, I think it's important to repeat that again. We don't just eat one meal a day, right? We eat several times a day. Sometimes we eat more than we should, more often. Hey, after lunch, I've had so many agents over the years say to me, man, my mornings are fantastic. It's like I come in, I'm focused, I'm excited, I stay on schedule, I'm productive. Then I go grab lunch and I come back and it's like, You know, the afternoon's a waste, right?
Yeah.
So hey, do it again. 12:30 to 12:45 every day. Rewrite your goals, visualize, you know, listen to something motivational. Give yourself the jump start again that you need to have a productive afternoon.
I love that. I'd love to hear from anybody on the call too. If you guys want to type it in the chat bar, you know, what do you guys do to refocus and get your mindset right? What are your habits? If it's outside of one of these four, share that too.
Hey, it's okay too, man. Yeah.
All right, cool.
So, you know, again, the reality is we have to have a plan of action. We have to have a regiment. We have to have a routine, if you will, for what preventative maintenance. Maybe that's a good way to put it, right?
Yeah.
For making sure we stay in, or giving ourselves the best possible chance of staying in that place of hopeful optimism, perseverance, inspiration, you know, commitment to something that is important to us. And then we also have to have a response for what happens when the reality sets in that something isn't going right and we're negative, we get discouraged, we get angry. Bang, you got to have your state changing routine right there at the ready so that you don't wallow, you don't stay below the line for any longer than you absolutely have to. And you can get back into productive mode because, you know, it's all about recovery. I mean, you know, think about it. If once a month something happened to you in your business or whatever that got you out of whack and it caused you to lose productivity for a day or two, okay? That would be at least 12 to 24 times out of the year that you would not be doing what you're supposed to do. Do you think that might have an accumulative effect?
Oh, yeah.
It's huge. The price we pay for not retaining strong discipline over our mind is huge, okay? But it doesn't have to be that way. You can commit that I'm going to do some of these things, and you're not going to become superhuman, but you're going to recover faster. You're going to stay consistent.
Absolutely. One thing I always say to myself is, if this is the worst thing that happens to me today, am I okay? Like it will immediately put everything in perspective.
Oh man, so true. I remember years ago, and I don't know if Tony still talks about this a lot, but one of the things I remember hearing and reading back in the personal power days, back in the 90s when Tony Robbins was doing some of his events or, you know, some of the programs, is he would encourage us to do the thing that we hated the most first. Take the one thing in your day that you dislike the most, right? And do it first, get it out of the way, because then everything else can only get better from there.
That's right.
So I remember I was coaching this guy. I can still remember his name, Monty Atkinson. He was this agent from a northern suburb of Atlanta. He was kind of in a little bit of a rural area, and he and his wife owned horses. And you know, so I remember getting on a coaching call with him one day, and we had been talking about this whole concept of doing the thing you hate the most first. So he said, well, coach, you're going to be proud of me because I went out this morning at 5:30 and I mucked the horse stalls in my bare feet. He said, it can only get better from here. I'm thinking, well, you know, I wasn't exactly going that direction, Monty, but hey, you know what?
I don't know if the barefoot thing was necessary.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess he just wanted to make it as disgusting and horrible of an experience as possible. So, you know, nothing could possibly be that bad. I don't know.
That's pretty bad. I love it.
Yeah, man. So that's
a very quiet group today. So I don't know if they're afraid to share their mindset mastery skills, but you know, one thing I find when we talk about something like mindset versus like a skill set training, there are fewer questions, because what I do know is the things you're saying are resonating with everybody at some level. So
I'm sure, and that's my hope.
Processing.
Yeah, if there's, you know, again, as I said at the beginning, if there's one thing that I've said today that you were like, wow, okay, that makes sense. Now take that and do something about it. Do something with that. You know, commit to creating your playlist. Commit to getting your, you know, your humor list or whatever you're going to use, or times of prayer, exercise, whatever. Maybe that's the one thing, is you say, you know what? I know something's going to happen at some point, so I'm going to be more ready for it this time and not let it get me so off track for a day or two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
Just so many things that you can do or choose to do in this case to have a much more positive frame of mind. And yeah, it's one of those things that I think is very personal for a lot of people. I mean, it strikes at our weaknesses, frankly, is what it does, because, we do have a weakness in that our thinking is, it's so easy to just respond the wrong way to whatever it is. And we're all susceptible to it. But, one of the keys to growing and achieving more is you got to be able to overcome that. You've got to be able to get past it. Otherwise, it's always going to hold you down. It's going to be that crab always pulling you back down into the trap.
That is a great analogy for a real estate office. Not all real estate offices.
No.
But generally, I've never heard that before, and I didn't know that was the practice of a crab.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's so interesting. But
okay.
Yeah.
You want to wrap up or have a few? We'll see if we have any questions, or I don't know if you have any points you want to kind of round out with, or.
I think really it's just decide what you're going to do preventatively, in terms of reading more. Again, don't feel like you have to take on this monumental task. Assign 15 minutes, literally 15 minutes. If you knew that by having a stronger mindset, you would sell 5 or 10 or 20 more houses this year, would it be worth it? And do you believe that by taking even as little as 15 minutes or maybe 15 more minutes and spending it ingesting, feeding something positive, something inspirational, something encouraging into you, if you believe that that would make a difference, wouldn't it be worth it? And the answer, I would hope, is yes. So
absolutely. Okay, Rocky, I really like your idea to break it up, because doing the same thing every day can get boring. Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, man. Great. I'm glad that spoke to you. Yeah. Because you're right. I mean, it's again, we don't necessarily always like the drudgery, the monotony of things. So, make it fun, man. Change it up every day. Do something different. But it's all, it's like why we use different exercises or different machines at the gym, right? So good. I'm glad that spoke to you.
I had to fit it into my drive to the office. I work about 17 minutes from my house, and I was always just listening to music because I'm a music person. So that pumped me up. But I thought, I want more than just to be pumped up. So I do like 15 minutes a book, and then I take this turn, I put on the radio and I find a song and I jam out to that for 2 minutes. So so there's a way maybe you can fit it into your day that's already happening that you can just adjust.
Yep, that's right. A lot of agents do it at the gym. They'll while they're working out, they'll be listening to a book, or if they're on the cycle or whatever, and you can have your iPad or your device there watching a YouTube video as a way to. I mean, there's lots of ways if you want to. Okay, if you allow your mind to come up with a solution and be creative, you can find a way to do these things and make it happen. And I promise you, it's going to pay off. Okay, it will change your entire way of thinking, which, as we said, starts to change the behavior. That's when our behavior changes. And when our behavior changes for the positive, obviously we reap the benefits of that. So, guys, it's like I said, if you have other questions, obviously, I'm sure, do you sometimes get them after the fact, Monica, questions that come in as a person maybe watches a broadcast over again or something?
Yeah, and I'm sure that the Espresso Agent family can get those questions to you.
Yeah, sure.
She was told to put a rubber band around her wrist, and every time negative thoughts, snap it, or switch it, or whatever. And that might be an awareness to the thought. Yeah.
Right. And hope it doesn't happen so often that you form a blister, on the wrist. If
you're doing that, then you need to call Coach James for sure.
Yeah, that's right. We got bigger problems.
Right. So people have connected with you on this, and guys, imagine talking with Coach James every week for a period of time. Imagine how that might improve your mindset, which would then improve your actions, which would then improve your results. So if somebody wants to just explore what coaching looks like with you, do you offer like an initial discovery call or something?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Best thing, like I said, I've got a few places open and in my schedule. So the best thing to do is you could email me, probably coachjameshoughtaling@gmail.com. You could hit me up through Facebook. Like and or follow my business page and send me a Facebook message, and then we'll just set up a time, I've got a little initial evaluation that you can fill out that tells me a little bit more about your background, what you might be challenged by, and then we set up a time and just talk about, what you guys need and how I can help you fill that need. So that'd be great.
Knowledge, I can imagine you can help a lot of people. So thank you for your time.
Very much appreciate it.
Great.
Yeah. I love the opportunity. I really do. So thank you for that. And, you know, again, hopefully everybody comes away with something that will change their approach as far as mindset goes.
Yeah, just a nugget.
You bet. Awesome.
All right. Awesome, guys. Hey, everybody in Espresso Agent World, have a great day. Thanks for joining us. James, thanks for joining us. And we'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Thanks again. Have a great day, Monica.
All right, guys. See ya.
Bye.